What's up everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something absolutely fascinating that has the entire music industry talking. While the biggest names in music were walking the red carpet at the Grammy Awards 2026, dressed in their finest designer outfits, posing for photographers, and hoping to take home that golden gramophone, Jimin from BTS was doing something completely different. And guys, when I tell you what he was actually doing, you're going to understand why this man is on a completely different level than most artists in the industry today. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this story is going to blow your mind. Let's set the scene first. It's early February 2026, and the Grammy Awards are happening at the Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles. It's one of the biggest nights in music, and pretty much every major artist you can think of is there. The red carpet is packed with celebrities, the paparazzi are going crazy, social media is exploding with photos of designer gowns and tuxedos, and inside the arena, performances are being rehearsed and awards are being prepared. This is the night that many artists spend months preparing for, the night that can define careers and create moments that last forever in music history. But Jimin wasn't there, and the reason why is actually more impressive than if he had shown up. So what was Jimin actually doing while all of this was happening? According to multiple sources close to BTS and big hit music, as well as some carefully curated social media posts and behind-the-scenes content that has been released, Jimin was exactly where he said he would be in the studio, working on Ararang. But it wasn't just casual studio time. This wasn't him popping in for a few hours to lay down a vocal track and then heading home. No, Jimin was deep in the trenches of one of the most intensive creative periods of his entire career, and the level of dedication he showed during Grammy weekend is actually kind of mind-blowing when you break it down. Let me paint you the full picture of what Grammy weekend looked like for Jimin. While other artists were on flights to Los Angeles on Thursday and Friday, checking into luxury hotels, attending pre-Grammy parties and events, Jimin was in the recording studio in Seoul. And I'm not talking about a quick session. According to reports from people who were there, Jimin arrived at the studio early Thursday morning and essentially didn't leave for the entire weekend. We're talking about marathon recording sessions that went 15, 16, sometimes 18 hours a day. This is the kind of work ethic that most people can't even comprehend, but for Jimin, this was non-negotiable. This was what Ararang demanded, and he was going to deliver. But what exactly was he working on that was so important? Well, it turns out that Grammy weekend coincided with a crucial phase in the production of several key tracks on Ararang. Jimin wasn't just recording his own parts. He was involved in every aspect of the creative process. He was in the vocal booth perfecting takes, yes, but he was also in production meetings, listening to mixes, providing feedback on arrangements, discussing lyrical changes with the other members who were also there, and basically living and breathing this album in a way that you can only do when you're completely immersed in the work with zero distractions. One of the most interesting details that emerged was about a specific track that Jimin had been struggling with for weeks. It's a solo track that's expected to be one of the emotional centerpieces of the album, a song that deals with themes of identity, isolation, and ultimately finding your way back to yourself. The vocal performance required for this track is incredibly demanding, not just technically, but emotionally. Jimin had done multiple recording sessions for it, but he wasn't satisfied. Something wasn't clicking. The emotion wasn't quite there. The vulnerability he wanted to convey wasn't coming through in the way he envisioned. Grammy weekend became the breakthrough moment for this track. According to the producer who was working with him, Jimin spent almost an entire day just on this one song. They tried different approaches, different vocal techniques, different emotional entry points into the lyrics. At one point, Jimin asked everyone except the essential technical staff to leave the recording booth area because he needed complete privacy to access the emotional place the song required. He recorded take after take after take, and around 2 in the morning on Saturday night, while the Grammy Awards ceremony was actually happening in Los Angeles, he finally nailed it. The take that made it onto the album was recorded at almost the exact same time that Grammy was announcing winners in major categories. The parallel is actually kind of poetic when you think about it. But it wasn't just about that one track. Jimin was also working extensively on the group tracks, particularly the ones where the vocal line has intricate harmonies. There's apparently a song on Ararang where all 4 members of BTS's vocal line Jimin, Jin, V, and Jungkook have this incredibly complex harmony section that required them to record together in the same booth, which is unusual in modern recording practices where vocals are typically recorded separately and then layered. But they wanted that organic blend, that live feel where you can hear them breathing together and responding to each other in real time. Getting that harmony section right took an entire day of Grammy weekend. All four of them in the booth together, adjusting their positions, their microphone techniques, the way they were blending their voices. It's the kind of perfectionism that might seem excessive to outsiders, but this is exactly what separates good albums from great albums, and great albums from masterpieces. Jimin was adamant that they couldn't move forward until this section was absolutely perfect, and his attention to detail and his refusal to settle for anything less than excellence pushed everyone in the studio to elevate their game. What's also fascinating is what was happening outside the recording booth during breaks. Because even during these intensive sessions, Jimin wasn't just focused on the music. He was also deeply involved in discussions about the visual concept for the album, the music video treatments, the choreography concepts, and even the tour production design. Big Hit Music had brought in various creative directors and choreographers to present their ideas during Grammy weekend, knowing that all the members would be focused and available. Jimin was actively participating in these creative meetings, providing feedback, pushing for concepts that felt authentic to the era-rang story they were trying to tell. There's this amazing anecdote from one of the choreographers who was present. They were presenting some initial movement concepts for the title track, and Jimin watched quietly, taking everything in. When they finished, instead of just giving general feedback, Jimin actually got up and started demonstrating modifications and adjustments, showing them exactly what he envisioned. This turned into an impromptu 3-hour choreography development session at midnight on Saturday, with Jimin and the choreographers working through movement vocabulary that would blend contemporary dance with traditional Korean dance elements. While Grammy attendees were at after-parties, Jimin was literally sweating in a dance studio, perfecting 8 counts that most people wouldn't even notice, but that he knew would make the difference between good and extraordinary. The dedication extends even to the meals during this period, which sounds like a small detail but actually tells you everything you need to know about Jimin's mindset. The studio had catering brought in because nobody was leaving to get food. But Jimin wasn't eating much. Multiple people noted that he was so focused, so in the zone, that he would forget to eat for hours. When reminded, he would grab something quick and simple, eat it quickly, and get right back to work. This is someone who was so completely absorbed in the creative process that basic human needs became secondary. That's not sustainable long-term, obviously, but for these crucial few days, Jimin was operating on pure creative adrenaline and artistic vision. What makes this even more interesting is that Jimin wasn't completely disconnected from what was happening at the Grammys. He had his phone, and according to people who were with him, he would occasionally check social media during breaks to see what was happening in Los Angeles. He saw the red carpet looks, he saw the performances, he saw the winners being announced, and apparently, there was zero regret in his demeanor. If anything, seeing the Grammy ceremony reinforced for him that he had made the right choice. One person who was in the studio with him said that at one point, Jimin watched a clip of a performance on his phone, smiled, said something like, "That's nice," and then immediately went back to discussing the bridge section of the track they were working on. The Grammy Awards, for all its prestige and glamour, was just background noise to the real work he was doing. There's also the fact that Jimin was actively documenting certain moments of this process for fans. While he obviously couldn't share everything in real time, he was taking photos and short videos that would eventually be shared with ARMY. There's apparently going to be behind-the-scenes content released closer to the album launch that shows exactly what Grammy weekend looked like for BTS, and based on the snippets that have been described, it's going to be incredibly powerful. Fans will get to see the dedication, the exhaustion, the creative breakthroughs, the moments of frustration and triumph that went into making Erarang. That's worth so much more than a few Instagram posts from a Grammy red carpet. The other members of BTS were similarly focused during this period. While Jimin was working on his specific parts and overall production, RM was in another room working on his rap verses and helping with overall album sequencing. Suga was collaborating with producers on beats and arrangements. J-Hope was developing choreography concepts. Jin was recording his vocal parts. B was working on his solo contributions and unit tracks. Jungkook was doing vocal production work. All 7 of them were there, together, completely focused on Arirang, while the rest of the music industry was focused on the Grammy Awards. The symbolism is actually quite powerful when you think about it. They were choosing their art, their vision, their promise to fans over the spectacle and validation of awards show. What's particularly noteworthy is how the production team and staff at Big Hit Music responded to this level of commitment from BTS. Everyone stepped up. Engineers were pulling all-nighters alongside the members. Producers were available whenever needed, regardless of the hour. Creative directors were on call for impromptu meetings. The entire organization essentially went into high gear during Grammy weekend because BTS was setting the tone and the standard, and everyone else rose to meet it. This is the kind of organizational culture that produces exceptional work, where leadership by example creates an environment of excellence. There's also an interesting business angle to what Jimin and BTS were doing during Grammy weekend. While they were in the studio working, pre-orders for Arirang were being processed by the hundreds of thousands. The Netflix concert announcement had already generated massive global interest. Tour dates were being finalized for the 82-show world tour. Merchandise designs were being approved. Sponsorship deals were being negotiated. The entire BTS commercial empire was moving forward at full speed, Grammy attendance or not. In fact, one could argue that their absence from the Grammys and their visible dedication to their craft actually enhanced their brand value because it reinforced the narrative that BTS is different, that they prioritize differently, that they're not chasing the same validation that other artists chase. The financial impact of their choice is actually staggering when you calculate it out. A Grammy appearance might have generated some additional publicity and perhaps marginally boosted some metrics, but the value of perfecting Arirang, ensuring the album is as good as it can possibly be, that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars in album sales, streaming revenue, concert tickets, and merchandise over the coming years. Jimin and BTS were essentially investing their time during Grammy weekend into an asset that will generate returns for years to come. That's actually brilliant business strategy disguised as artistic integrity. What Jimin was doing during Grammy weekend also sends a powerful message to the next generation of artists, particularly Asian artists and K-pop artists who often feel pressure to seek Western validation. By choosing the studio over the Grammy red carpet, by prioritizing his art over the glamour of awards show, Jimin is essentially saying that you don't need external validation to be legitimate, that your worth as an artist isn't determined by whether Western institutions recognize you, that the work itself and the connection with your fans is what actually matters. This is a revolutionary message in an industry that has long been dominated by Western-centric measures of success. The response from ARMY to the behind-the-scenes glimpses they've gotten of what Jimin was doing during Grammy weekend has been overwhelmingly emotional. Fans have expressed feeling incredibly moved by his dedication, by his willingness to sacrifice glamorous opportunities for the sake of delivering the best possible work for them. The hashtag Jimin in the studio trended globally as fans shared their appreciation and respect for his work ethic. Many fans have said that this makes them love and respect Jimin even more, that seeing him choose meaningful work over superficial recognition deepens their connection to him as an artist. That emotional investment from fans is actually more valuable than any Grammy trophy could ever be because it translates to sustained support, album purchases, concert attendance, and lifelong loyalty. From a purely artistic perspective, what Jimin was doing during Grammy weekend is actually how great art gets made. It's not made on red carpets or at award shows. It's made in studios at 2 in the morning when you're exhausted, but you know you haven't quite captured what you're looking for yet, so you do one more take. It's made in creative meetings where you push back on ideas that are good but not great because you're holding out for extraordinary. It's made when you prioritize the work over everything else, when you create an environment where excellence is non-negotiable, when you refuse to compromise your vision for convenience or external validation. This is masterclass in artistic dedication, and the fact that it was happening while Grammy Awards was occurring just makes it all the more powerful as a statement. There's also something to be said about the mental and emotional space that Jimin was in during this period. Grammy weekend could have been stressful if he had attended. There would have been the pressure of red carpet appearances, the anxiety about potential wins or losses, the endless networking and socializing, the performance pressure if they had been asked to perform. Instead, Jimin was in a familiar environment, surrounded by his members and trusted collaborators, doing what he loves most, creating music. There's actually something very healthy and grounded about choosing that environment over the chaos and pressure of a major awards show. It suggests an artist who knows himself, who knows what feeds his creativity and what drains it, and who makes choices accordingly. The timeline of what Jimin accomplished during Grammy weekend is actually quite impressive when you list it out. Multiple vocal tracks recorded and finalized, including that breakthrough emotional performance on his solo track. Complex group harmonies perfected through collaborative recording. Creative meetings attended and input provided on visual concepts, choreography, and tour production. Impromptu choreography development session that lasted hours. Reviewing and approving mixes and arrangements. Participating in discussions about album sequencing and track selection. All of this while maintaining focus, energy, and creative vision across marathon 15+ hour days. Most artists couldn't sustain that level of productivity and creative output for even a single day, and Jimin did it for an entire weekend. What's going to be really interesting is when Arirang actually releases and people can hear the tracks that Jimin was working on during Grammy weekend. Fans will be able to listen to that solo track and know that the vocal performance they're hearing was recorded at 2 in the morning while the Grammys were happening, that the emotion they're feeling was captured in that specific moment when Jimin finally broke through to the vulnerable place the song required. They'll be able to hear those intricate vocal harmonies and know that they were perfected through hours of dedicated work by all 4 vocal line members standing together in a booth, refusing to settle for anything less than perfect blend. The music will carry the story of its own creation, and that adds a layer of meaning and connection that Grammy attendance could never provide. Looking at the bigger picture, what Jimin did during Grammy weekend is actually a case study in opportunity cost and value prioritization. Every choice involves trade-offs. By choosing the studio over Grammy, he traded red carpet glamour, networking opportunities, potential award wins, and massive publicity for something he valued more: intensive creative work time, artistic perfection, promised fulfillment to fans, and personal satisfaction. Not everyone would make that trade, but for Jimin, it wasn't even a difficult decision. His values and priorities are clear, and he acts on them consistently. That integrity and authenticity is actually quite rare in the entertainment industry, where many artists make decisions based on optics and positioning rather than genuine conviction. The story of what Jimin was doing during Grammy Awards 2026 is ultimately a story about what it means to be an artist in the truest sense. It's about choosing creation over recognition, substance over spectacle, long-term artistic legacy over short-term validation. It's about understanding that awards and accolades are nice, but they're not the point. That the point is the work itself, the connection with the audience, the satisfaction of knowing you gave everything you had to create something meaningful. Jimin gets that in a way that many artists never do, and his choices during Grammy weekend prove it beyond any doubt. So while other artists were walking the red carpet in borrowed jewels and designer gowns, while they were performing for Grammy voters and hoping for that golden gramophone, while they were at after-parties celebrating or consoling each other, Jimin was in a studio in Seoul, surrounded by his brothers, creating music that will outlast any single awards show, building a legacy that's based on artistic excellence rather than industry recognition. And honestly, guys, when you really think about it, isn't that actually more impressive? Isn't that actually more worthy of respect and admiration? I think it absolutely is. That's the breakdown of what Jimin was actually doing during Grammy Awards 2026. Let me know in the comments what you think about his choice and his dedication. Do you respect this level of commitment to the craft? Does it make you more excited for Arirang? Hit that like button if you enjoyed this deep dive. Subscribe for more BTS content. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace!